Medal of Honor, once a genre-defining World War II first-person shooter franchise that eventually got turned into a modern military reboot in an attempt for EA to make money to compete with Call of Duty by releasing a Medal of Honor one year and then Battlefield the next year and then rotating those out. The first Medal of Honor worked kinda well in this regard. The second one bombed so hard they gave up on that idea entirely and just focused on Battlefield. Medal of Honor has since gone into a bit of a hiatus and is now coming back as a VR title, which I'm surprisingly excited about. Although, admittingly, I'm just excited we're getting another big budget VR first-person shooter. I've really grown to enjoy VR over the last 6 months or so, and if you guys are interested in seeing a video of Medal of Honor VR when that comes out, let me know down in the comments, as I know not everyone cares about VR. Anyways, hey everyone, as always Jarek here, and welcome to possibly the most generic modern military shooter of all time. It's important to mention that this video is going to be focusing on the single player of Medal of Honor 2010, not the multiplayer. The single player and multiplayer are such different experiences that they're practically entirely different games. They don't even run on the same engine, nor were they made by the same developers. The single player runs on Unreal Engine 3 and was developed by Danger Close Studios. The multiplayer runs on Frostbite 1.5 and was developed by DICE. Yes, the Battlefield DICE. As such, the multiplayer was basically Bad Company 2.5, and as far as I know was quite good, but I never got into it back in the day and it's dead now. That's not really much of a surprise, as within a few days this game is going to be a decade old, and a 10-year-old game is generally not going to be too active. Let's start where I usually do, the graphics. But before I can even get to the graphics, I have to explain how to even run this game. Yeah, it's one of those games. This game is an awful PC port. Not only that, but getting it is kind of annoying. It's not hard to get by any means, but if you want to buy it on Steam, it's still 20 bucks. 20 bucks for a 10-year-old single-player experience that's only 4 hours long and a multiplayer experience that's dead. EA, why is this still 20 bucks? This thing should be 5 at most. I didn't pay $20 for this, although I did pay $9 for it. Anyway, when I first tried to launch this game, it opened up, threw all the windows on my second screen everywhere, minimized, and then wouldn't open again. No matter what I did, no matter how many times I launched the game, it would just minimize and not open. The reason it does this is because games sometimes don't like it when your native resolution is 1440p like mine is, so it just wouldn't open. Even when I tried to change it to windowed mode, it still wouldn't open. So I had to go into an ini file and change the resolution to 2560 by 1440, and then once I did that, finally it would launch and work perfectly fine. It's important to mention that this game does natively support 1440 and you can change it in the menus, but I don't know why it wouldn't work until I changed it in an ini file. But even then, there's a lot of problems. Here are the graphical options you have: world detail, texture detail, shadow detail, anti-aliasing, and vertical sync. That's it. And anti-aliasing doesn't even do anything. I'm not kidding, if you turn it on and turn it off, it does nothing. If you want actual anti-aliasing in this game, you need to turn it on in your NVIDIA control panel or AMD equivalent. But it does the cardinal sin that you all know on this channel. Jarek the FOV Dragon coming back, there's no FOV slider, and the FOV in-game is 70. 0.69 out of 10. Thankfully, there's a program you can download where if you run it at the same time as Medal of Honor, you can change the FOV on the fly, and it even changes the weapon FOV. What's really curious about this is that changing the FOV to 100 doesn't seem to break any of the animations in the game, with the exception of the AK-74U. I'm pretty sure his hand's not supposed to be doing that. But other than that, everything else in the game works perfectly fine, so the fact that there's no FOV slider is incredibly confusing. They could have just locked it at 90 FOV max and nothing would have broken in game. That's not it though. Since there's no graphical options to change anything, this means that motion blur is forced turned on, so you have to turn that off in an ini file. But worst of all, there is forced on mouse acceleration that makes aiming feel miserable in this game. I know some console players that played it back in the day that just want to hear me talk about the game are going to be whining at me saying, stop being a PC elitist, just play the game. I already disagree with that. But more importantly, this last one you cannot call me an elitist over. Having mouse acceleration is miserable. You cannot aim. In order to turn mouse acceleration off, you need to change 4 different things in an ini file from true to false. These things are B, enable mouse smoothing, B, use view acceleration, and B, enable slow mouse view reinterpret. Before I changed these options, aiming was impossible. Aiming down sights was even more sensitive and did not scale compared to hipfire. But even after I changed all these things, the aim was still way too sensitive. Even after I turned it down all the way in-game. I run at a ridiculously high DPI. I run at 800 DPI, which is pretty standard. I had to lower my DPI to 500 to make it feel at least playable. Keep in mind, this game is 10 years old, but 10 years ago was 2010. It's not like PC games were new at the time. We did have standards back then, and these are not it. Some other games that came out in 2010 are Halo Reach, Call of Duty Black Ops, BioShock 2, and Bad Company 2. So yeah, this is a really bad port. But now that we've done all this nonsense, we can actually talk about the graphics, and to be honest, they're not that bad. For a game that came out in 2010, they are a little better than average, I would say, but not mind-blowing. The game is so much of a generic modern military shooter that I don't even have anything more to say out of that. It just does what we've seen plenty of times before. Although Medal of Honor has an old game problem where the cutscenes are lower resolution and compressed, so they look worse than the actual gameplay, despite the fact that they have more post-processing effects, some extra particle effects, some fog and weathering added in. It's supposed to look better, but it's pixelated, so it's jarringly obvious that it's a cutscene and not gameplay. So now let's move on to the story. Were you expecting there to be a story or something? I am entirely honest when I say I have no clue what story they're trying to tell. I at least will give them a little bit of credit. You are fighting the Taliban, which is something that most games don't want to remotely come close to touching. It's way too political and controversial of a topic, so most games just leave it out. In fact, I remember this game getting into a lot of hot shit with the multiplayer as one of the factions were the Taliban and you could play as the Taliban, and people really didn't like that. But the story itself is a mixed bag of cliches and tropes you've seen in plenty of other games before. You see the epic action Hollywood movie hero Navy SEALs doing really cool things that make me roll my eyes. You see yourself being a lowly ranger marching into a death trap. You have the on-a-rails helicopter section, you have the generic sniper mission, you have the generic stealthy suppressed weapons mission, and you have a comically argumentative big suit getting in the way constantly of your general trying to do anything. When I say comically evil, I mean he exists purely for the reason of making you angry and hating him. He never shows any motives other than just to get in the way and be a dick.
Do you have eyes on that convoy of vehicles in grid 160959?
Yes, sir.
Friendlies?
No, they're not responding to our glint, sir. Synchronizing our weapons with our FLIR.
Well, we've had reports of enemy ambushes in the area. Are they enemy or friendly?
Not sure, sir.
And they're non-responsive to our glint, confirm?
Negative, no glint.
Are you registering weapons?
Affirmative, sir.
Well, then that's a high-threat area with unidentified vehicles registering weapons.
Sir, we don't have positive ID on those
Reaper
vehicles.
3-1, you are cleared hot on those vehicles.
Barker, this is Colt 01. We seem to be taking some fire. Do you have eyes on our grid? Incoming! Incoming! Barker, we have been engaged! Request immediate assistance!
Ceasefire, those are friendlies.
Who is this?
This is Panther, you are engaging Kiev rebels.
Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
Shit! We've got casualties! Move them away! Get out of the way! They're bugging out, sir. What? Where are they going? Shit! Anderson! Williams! Get the truck and bring it back!
Sir, we've lost Task Force Rebel. They're heading back to Gardez.
The Afghans don't make or break this, Drucker. Send the Rangers into the valley. With the AFO teams having destroyed the targets, there'll be hardly any resistance.
Sir, the
AFO teams can continue calling in airstrikes.
Send in the Rangers. Are we clear?
Lima Charlie, sir.
On the very last mission of the game, you intentionally disconnect the feed to him so that he can't talk to you anymore, and then we never hear anything from him ever again. You don't get to see what sort of punishment happens for doing that, you don't get to see him getting angry, that's just the last you hear of him. So you might be asking, what's the story then? I don't know. There truly is no point or goal to this game. You're tossed from one character in one faction to one character in another. Now, part of this is accurate. We didn't know where the enemies were in the Middle East. We still kind of don't. We're just kind of chasing them out of rocks and hills and mountains, and that's the whole game. However, this game doesn't even explain what the end goal is, or what we're doing, or why we're in that section of the world. Like, what's going on? I know what you're probably saying here. You're probably saying, wow, that actually sounds shockingly accurate to the fuck garbage situation we got into in the Middle East. However, this clearly wasn't their intent. All these missions are loosely connected at best, and you never really know what's going on or who you're truly playing as. You get a name and the forces unit that you're in, but that's about it. For most of this game, you're just confused as to what's going on and what you're doing, and they don't really explain the story very well. It only worked well on one mission, and that one mission was actually particularly good. The mission I'm referring to is the mission where you're playing as the Rangers, heading up through a canyon. Your character is not one of the heroes running through killing everything, you are a support gunner in the back suppressing fire. And it's actually pretty cool to be put into this role instead of the big hero up front killing everything. And this mission in particular is actually not half bad. The whole point of this mission is literally just to clear out the Taliban in this area. However, the canyon you're running up is a meat grinder and a death trap. It's a death trap because the higher-ups were getting in the way and pushed you forward when you really shouldn't be going that way. But you're a ranger, you have no choice, you're just following orders. This level doesn't exactly follow the tropes that a modern military game does that really annoy the hell out of me. and I have to explain what those are first. Most of the time, modern military shooters follow after Call of Duty, games that are so scripted that they might as well play for themselves. As I've said many times before, Call of Duty campaigns are practically interactive movies that just force you to push buttons every once in a while so it makes sure you're paying attention. Modern military games like Call of Duty's campaigns treat the player like they're children or idiots that just have no idea what's going on. You have no freedom in these games. You're not allowed to explore, you're not allowed to go at your own pace, you do exactly what the NPC is yelling at you to do, and if you can't figure out what he's yelling at you to do fast enough, the game arbitrarily kills you to force some false sense of urgency. Didn't get that C4 on that nav point way across the map in time? Well, I'm gonna kill you, restart from checkpoint. You wanted to look that way? Sorry, that's too far out of the map. I'm gonna kill you and respawn you from checkpoint. And then you get into the story itself that is full of so many Hollywood cliches that I cannot suspend my disbelief. How many times are we gonna see badass Spec Ops stealthing through the woods before he realizes this is just a movie? This is not realistic to me, despite the fact that it tries to appear realistic. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why people like these campaigns. Now, I'm not just saying this because it's popular to hate on Call of Duty. I actually love Call of Duty's multiplayer, but I've always hated the single player. There's a few Call of Duty campaigns that I don't mind so much. I can play Black Ops and World at War without feeling like I want to gouge my eyes out, but for the most part, I hate Call of Duty campaigns, and that's why. Those are the reasons why. So you would expect Medal of Honor 2010 to do these same things. After all, it's trying to directly compete with Call of Duty and trying to copy Call of Duty, albeit 4 years late. And for the most part, yeah, it does. However, for this one mission where you're playing as Rangers, it doesn't do any of these tropes. It doesn't tell you that you can't go out of bounds. It doesn't have you stare at a friendly NPC's ass while you crawl through a field with no freedom to do anything else. It doesn't have scripted set pieces that require you to go a very specific direction. If you don't, it'll just murder you. You are forced to run through this meat grinder because of a suit's meddling, and once you get to the very end, you're stuck at cover that's not exactly very great with the Taliban overwhelming you. At this point, your squad just needs to hold the Taliban off before you run out of ammo. This is a very realistic situation that plays out all the time in the Middle East. At the end of this mission, your squad does run out of ammo, but Apache helicopters come in at the last second and save you.
Bravo 6, Bravo 1-6. One more down. Hold your men. We aren't gonna make it. We're out of ammo in the enemy came in. They're in the high ground. 30, 40. Oh, you got him. Good luck. That's it. We are out of ammo. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Kill. I'm not dying with any wrongs left. What the hell? Fucking down! Apaches!
I actually have a lot of praise for this mission. I can suspend my disbelief for it because it's a realistic situation. It doesn't treat me like an idiot, and it lets me just play the game. And the characters, from what I see, are believable. They talk like Rangers would. It's a lot more down to earth than the other modern military shooter campaigns. Unfortunately, the mission following right after this one is an on-rail helicopter segment and then a sniper segment where it takes all the freedom away. It's like they had to make up for it. I already don't like helicopter missions, but I especially don't like it when it's on a rail. I have no control over this helicopter. I'm just doing what they're telling me to, and that is look at this thing and click on that thing. It also takes away the realism that I tried to define in the last mission. Why are helicopters flying this close? Why are they surviving numerous RPGs? The following sniper mission is also as generic as it gets. Look at this guy, click on that guy, kill this one. Oh, they're ambushing us now. We gotta stand back, listen to the NPCs, and shoot at those guys. Even at the time of this game's launch, I remember saying I've played this before and it wasn't fun the first time I played it. But the best example are these stealth missions, where you're playing as SEALs, stealthing through with suppressed weapons, and for some reason ATVs, because yeah, that's stealthy. What's the point of these ATVs? They're not stealthy, people are going to hear them from miles away, and they don't serve any gameplay purpose except to get from point A to point B on a linear path. Even then, nothing happens when you're driving from point A to point B aside from some comically huge jumps that would never work. Then when you finally get to your destination, you get off of your ATV, you follow your friendly NPC, and wait for him to tell you to shoot certain enemies quietly. Sometimes at the same time as him. How exciting. The only compliment I can give to these levels is that I didn't find them as annoying as some of the other stealth missions in other games. Like if I fucked up and did something a little bit too loud, I would just get ambushed by enemies and I could kill them and then keep going. Doesn't exactly make much sense in the scenario we were given, but whatever, at least it's less annoying than stealth that instantly fails you. Either way, these missions define everything I hate about modern military campaigns. They're linear, they don't give the player any freedom, you're just following a friendly NPC, they're unrealistic, and the fact that we have this whole spec ops crazy military dudes that can kill everything because they're so cool just makes me roll my eyes. It's in such stark contrast to the way they portrayed the Ranger situation of just kind of being in a fucked situation as a regular infantry unit that it's almost baffling that it's the same game. On one mission, your squad is separated from the rest and about to be overrun by Taliban, completely running out of ammo, and then you need help. On the other hand, you get to play as a SEAL where you're special and badass and you have to stealth into an area after getting separated from your other SEALs just to see one of them do spins around and comically murder 5 people at once. This is what makes me roll my eyes. And that badass, cool military Hollywood action movie nonsense is in stark contrast to some of the more realistic things put into the game. Let's talk about the weapons for a little bit because they're kind of important to talk about in a modern military title. For the most part, they're modeled and animated fairly well, although the empty reload for the M4 is pretty bad. Really? You're hating the bolt catch doing that? It doesn't even make a noise. It makes this little plasticky click. That is a huge pet peeve of mine in games and movies and videos where they release the slide of the pistol or they release the bolt catch and it gets off this little tiny noise. Like, oh, it's a big hunk of metal going forward. Make it loud. Much better. Anyway, for the most part, these weapons sound nice and they're animated fine for 2010, better than most back then. And I will give them a lot of credit for the shotguns because, oh my lord, the shotguns are satisfying in this game. They have range, they sound loud, and they send the enemies ragdolling. And there's even some extra cool details, like for example, to get more ammo, you need to ask your squad mates for more ammo, but if they don't share the same ammo as the gun you're using, then they can't give you ammo. If you have an AK but they have an M4, that guy can't give you any more 5.56 because your gun is not using 5.56. However, if you're using a G3 and that person happens to be using an M60, he can give you more ammo because that's the same ammo. Little stuff like this is actually really cool, and I do applaud the game for doing stuff like this. It unfortunately is just really bad when it comes to the gameplay and writing. So yeah, the best way to describe Medal of Honor is if you played any modern military shooter before, you've played Medal of Honor before. It was late to the punch, and it wasn't particularly exciting back then, and I don't think it's exciting now. I know I'm going to get a bit of hate for this because people seem to do like this game, but I'm not one of those people. I'm also under the opinion that the positive reviews it got, and I say positive because it got 7 out of 10, so definitely not bad, but not like 9 out of 10. I'm convinced that the reason it got such good reviews was for the multiplayer, not the campaign, and that's probably what everyone's going to be telling me in the comments. The campaign, at best, is mediocre, but most of the time is pretty awful. It has one highlight to it, and that's where I would leave it. But that's about all I have to say when it comes to Medal of Honor 2010. The next game I'm going to play is the one that quite literally killed the Medal of Honor franchise until the new VR game, Medal of Honor Warfighter, so I'll see you guys next week for that video. Thanks to everyone that joined me over on Twitch. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos ahead of time. Same thing with my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. Thank all of you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.